So here's the item that we're going to create as part of this homework. You will see that all of the playing around, and there will probably be a fair amount more playing around for you here than there is for me in this demonstration, because you'll be trying things out. But you're going to end up in an object that looks pretty similar to this. There may be some slight differences. So in order to create this object, which we're going to use in the next lesson, talking about modifying things, I am going to show you how to make this thing, because it looks kind of intimidating right now, but I promise you it's pretty simple. So the first thing you need to do is select your, I've got to do this again for the thing, is select your regular polygon tool. And you need to make sure that you are in circumscribed mode. And you need to make sure that the number of sides is 8, which I think it begins as 6. The other thing that you want to make sure is that you are in solid magenta. So you have to make a solid cyan and a solid magenta class. The solid magenta. So we're going to start there. And what you're going to do is you're going to click on the screen since you're in circumscribed mode. You're going to move that cursor horizontally to the right. You can see the angle is at 0. You're going to hit the tab button once, and then you're going to say 6 feet, enter, enter. And it should be magenta. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to offset this item. And so in order to offset this item, it would be best if we're not using a solid object, because if I offset it, and I've set it here to being 2 inches, it'll just cover up the previous object. See how it just got bigger? Command Z, click, Command Z. It just got bigger. You can't see that there's actually another line. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Drafting, Very Dark, and we've set these drafting, in the last video, we've set these drafting classes to not have a solid nature. But whoops, wonder why that's happening. Is that because it's not set to the right drafting mode? No, it's because the object that you're trying to offset has a class. So we're going to go ahead and let it offset, and now we're going to try and change that class. So you can't do it here. This is only for new things. So this creates new shapes in a various class. This object info box, though, modifies an already existing shape. So this is the offset shape right here. We can see the smaller one underneath it being hidden. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Drafting, Very Dark. Now it has become that class. The only way to modify an object that's already on the piece of paper is to go to Object Info over here and to change what layer or class it is, and then it should work. If it does not, it's because your Attributes panel is not set to make all attributes by class. You want that to be always set to that as much as possible. So now we have this stop sign looking thing. It's magenta. Marvelous. The next thing you're going to want to do is to create a circle. So if we go to Solid Cyan, I can go to the circle mode. I want to make sure we're in this first one here, radius mode. I'm going to come down here to the bottom right, and I'm going to make this a 2-inch circle. Oh, that was not what I meant. 2-foot circle. So if you go ahead and select the item again, you can make modifications. So in order to make modifications, you can go over here to where radius says 2 inches, and you can make it feet. Bam! There you go. So don't forget about this object info panel. Remember, the nice Vectorworks man told you that this is probably one of the most important palettes that exists. And this will only get to be more so if you move on to lighting design things, because this is how we enter lighting instrument information as well. So you can change anything about a shape in this panel. So now we have this thing. So if you look at our larger shape, all right, here we are. Now there's a square hanging out here. And so what I'm going to do is have you go to the square mode. And you're going to select corner to corner, which is the second one right here. And you are going to just create sort of any size. I mean, not too big. I don't want you to select from the center though. I want you to select from the edge here. Sort of some sort of rectangle hanging out here. And you can do that by, if you keep hitting tab, 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 so this means in relation to the X and the Y coordinates, these first two. But the length one is the third one. So you have to keep tabbing past those X and Y coordinate ones. And so I could say 1 foot, enter. That seems a little small. I can hit tab again, tab, 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 and say 3 foot, enter. It seems a little big. I'm going to get Goldilocks this. I'm going to say tab, 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 2 inches, sorry, 2 feet, enter. Ah, that one's just right. And then I can say enter. Oh, but now he's blue because I forgot to change up here that he's solid cyan. So how do I change that? I can't change that here. That's for new things. I have to change that over here. So if I go to class, drafting, very dark, bam, I have a lovely little rectangle that looks a lot like some of the other things going on. So now we're going to take this item and we are going to select it. Also, you can just hit X. But again, you can't see my keypad as I'm doing this. So I'm trying to just show you where to click for now until you get the basics. This pops up. Usually it's a really good idea to save. So I'm going to say File, Save As right now. And it's going to take a second because my computer has to think about that. And I'm going to say Swigger Assignment 2.1.2. I'm going to say save. Great. So now what I want to do is I want to rotate and duplicate this object so I can get this section of it right here. So I'm going to, so what I've done is I've hit X and I've selected this object by going over it. I am going to select rotate. I am going to select here and here. And I'm going to rotate. So that it looks like that. So now I have the circle here and the circle here. And now I'm going to mirror. And so what I want to do is hit X, make sure that I select both of these objects, and I'm going to mirror with duplication on, make sure the duplication is on. And then I'm going to select a plane to be the mirror, and that is this plane. I'm holding down Shift to make sure it's vertical. And then I have this, but we're not done yet. Now we're going to select this whole thing. We're also going to select mirror with duplication on. I can select the bottom of this to the bottom of this because now we should be even. And now we have something pretty close to this. But I want you to practice this. Where do I go to change the class? I also want you to practice how to select things if you're not dragging a box over them. So here we have these different magenta octagons. I am going to click on the first one, hold down the Shift key for the second one, hold down the Shift key for the next one, hold down the Shift key for the next one. I'm going to go up here to solid cyan. Marvelous. Now I see that these circles here are all magenta. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click on the first one. Don't hold down shift. You want it to just be this circle now. We don't want to turn these back to being magenta, right? So I'm going to select, holding shift down, holding shift down, holding shift down. Cyan. Nope. Magenta. Great. And now for our last practice of this, we are going to go up here to shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click. And so you should only have these 4 boxes selected. We're going to go to class, color, orange. Oh, I did something bad. How do I fix it? Command Z. So what I didn't do there was I didn't click to begin. So I hit shift click when I did this one. I didn't just click and release the other object. So that may happen to you. Don't forget that when you start a new round of selections, the first one should just be regular click, not shift click. So regular click on this one, shift click, shift click, shift click. Did this guy get captured? No. And there is a sort of orangey haze when it's selected. So these all seem to be selected. Now I'm going to try this again. I'm going to do color, and I'm going to do orange. And the reason why there is a white fill to these is because that's how we set our classes at the beginning. We're going to want that for now, although we may decide to change that later. Okay, so you should have something that looks like this. And this will help us greatly when we go to the next lesson and we learn how to modify things, because we're going to modify this object further.